line from 8:30 this morning, and it's been quite an interesting morning so far. I am very happy to have been asked by the ACW Council to share with you on etiquette, and I trust that by the end of my presentation that you would have lots to take away from this today, okay? So let me begin. Okay, I want to keep up my chat open. All right. So tell me, does anybody know what the word etiquette means? Somebody? Anybody? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you, ladies.
Oh, okay.
Please send your reactions, comments. Davia Pinder says to be proper and have manners, showing mannerism, manners.
Okay.
How one acts.
Anybody else?
Those are comments from a few persons.
Okay.
The way you conduct yourself.
So yes, carrying yourself a certain way, the way you conduct yourself. Yes. What about the code of behavior? Code of behavior or rules as to how you want to govern yourself. Proper conduct, whether you're at church, whether you're among your peers, where you're out dining, or you're at a formal event, or at school, or just simply everyday life, okay? Etiquette covers manners. It includes manners. It includes, every aspect of your everyday life, okay? Corporate etiquette, there's telephone etiquette, there's bathroom etiquette, there's even wedding etiquette, how one should behave when they're in the presence of others, okay? So let's start with some of the areas of etiquette, like corporate or business etiquette. For those of you who may have had summer jobs or who are working now, you want to conduct yourself in a way that you're respectful, you're considerate of others on the job, you have good manners, you're honest, and you want to be able to just administer some form of social grace when you're among people. And basically, I said it's everyday life, whether you're at church, dining, formal events, whatever, okay? Let's focus on manners as well, all right? Look at my next slide, where it speaks about, let me just minimize this here. Good manners will open doors that the best education cannot. Have you ever heard your parents say that manners will take you out throughout the world? Has anyone ever heard that? Manners will take you far. If you have bad manners, or you're not kind, or you're just an ugly person on the inside, but you on the outside, you want to appear calm and very accommodating, but inside your whole demeanor is that you're ugly because you don't have good manners. You're not just kind. Okay, so manners and etiquette often go hand in hand. Okay, so we want to be considerate of others, we want to be respectful, and we want to be honest in everything we do. When we're dealing with social etiquette, we want to be able to speak clearly. We want to be able to give eye contact. We want to be pleasant in our tone, the way how we speak to people. When we address people, when we're asking for something, it's please. When we're receiving something, it's thank you. If you walk into a room, what is the first thing one would say?
Good morning, good afternoon, good
morning,
evening, greetings.
Good night. Who wants to walk into a room and not speak? That's rude, bad manners, okay? So we want to think of all of these things that we wouldn't want done to us. We want to make sure that we administer or we execute these actions and behaviors, all right? When we speak about telephone etiquette, when we answer the phone, good morning, good afternoon, how can I help you? My name is so-and-so. Is there something I can help you with? Telephone etiquette is important. Bathroom etiquette. When we go to use the bathroom and the door is closed, what do? If the door is closed and we go to use the bathroom, what do?
They're saying knock and you wait.
Knock on the door, okay? So just barging in or trying to open the door if the door is closed, no. We want to knock on the door. And if there's anybody behind the door, they will say, well, excuse me, give me a moment. And then, of course, you just wait around until they're ready. They leave, they're ready to come out. Okay. If not, then you knock, no answer. You're able to walk in. That's fine. Okay. You go into the bathroom, use the bathroom, wash your hands, flush the toilet. If you're going to do 1, 2, maybe you want to use a little air freshener. Some bathrooms have it, some don't. But you want to execute this type of behavior when it comes to bathroom etiquette. Think of the person coming behind you when you're using the bathroom, all right? Manners reflect one's attitude. However, etiquette speaks to your conduct and your rule of behavior in certain settings, okay? So I want you all to take that into consideration. When you go to church, for us as Anglicans, because I'm an Anglican, we genuflect. When we walk in, we would genuflect probably at the end of our pew. We would go sit in, we would say a small prayer, and then we will get involved in the service, correct? That's what we do as Anglicans, right? So there are certain rules of behaviors that are geared to certain areas of our life. Church rules, school rules, when we're out with friends, when we're among our family. We want to, like I said, knock on the door. We want to speak. We want to practice what we preach. We want to be kind. If we do something wrong and we must admit we're wrong, we need to apologize, do damage control, all right? A lady should govern herself in a manner that is respectful, not only to others, but to herself, all right? Everybody clear on that? Any questions thus far? Because I don't want to.
Ladies, any questions? And we need the reactions as well. We need the reactions to see that everyone's still here.
As well. I don't mind if you type and talk. We want to also show appreciation. When we speak clearly, ladies, we want to speak standard English. How many of us are guilty of speaking broken English when we go out? Let's keep the broken English or the dialect in our personal circles. Was that Juisha and Sierra and Samaya, Adelie raising their hands, and Aurora?
I'm Taylor.
Yes, we want to speak standard English when we go out, okay? First impressions are lasting. And, you know, everything is visual now. I think our first presenter, Mrs. Popel, she spoke briefly on grooming and what we should wear or what we should not wear, okay? An appropriate dress for different things. We need to, you know, pay attention to these things because first impressions are lasting. So even though people are visual and they're looking to see how we present ourselves, the same thing applies when we open our mouths. When we speak, we need to speak clearly, all right? Broken English should be kept within your inner circle. Okay, and when I speak about broken English, I mean dialect as well. Okay, you know, like a die no true or I just go here, no. Okay, be mindful of the fact that every time you open your mouth, somebody is listening. Somebody is watching your mannerisms, your behavior. Okay, and just as I think Mrs. Ingram spoke about the criteria some of these schools are looking for, they don't want persons to enter their universities who are going to make them look bad. You're representing our country, the Bahamas, you're Bahamians. Okay, so you want to, you know, conduct yourselves in a manner that will be respectful. And when you leave, you can leave a lasting impression, all right? So as we speak about social graces, proper introductions using titles, Mr. and Mrs., Sir or ladies. How many of you have extended family members who may not be your biological aunt or uncle, but you would call them Aunt Jane or Uncle John? I see a show of hands, yes. And that is done as a form of respect, instead of you calling them by their first name, because of course they're much older than you, all right? So we want to use proper introductions when we're addressing older persons or even our teachers. or people who we come into contact with that may be older, or let's just say higher in age or in status or rank, like the Prime Minister. Would you address the Prime Minister's brave? No. How would you address the Prime Minister, Shavanya?
Say that again. Apologies.
How would you address the Prime Minister?
First, if he's speaking with someone, the first thing that I would say is excuse me. But then you would address him as the Right Honorable Minister Philip Brave Davis.
Exactly. Okay. You want to address him by his title. All right.
Yes,
he's not brave for you or brave for me. Okay. And even if you don't want to use all of those titles, Mr. Prime Minister or Mr. Davis. Okay. So you want to address people properly using their titles or using their last names if you must. Okay. So when you're using these titles, you're showing some form of respect. And of course, you know, nobody can fault you for it. Sometimes we don't know how to use, or we don't remember that we should address them as the Right Honorable or Bishop Gomez or whomever. So using their last name would suffice just as well. Okay. Questions so far? No? We're moving.
Any questions, ladies?
We're moving kind of quickly. But anyway, so let's move on to table manners. How many of you get invited out? Okay.
Some hands being
So
raised.
have you ever been to a formal event or an informal event, or when you say invited out, you're going out to a restaurant, you're going out to a friend's house, where are you going? Nobody, yes, yes. I'm not saying my chat.
Okay, someone said a restaurant. Sierra
Restaurant, okay.
A friend's house.
So a friend's house, okay. So when you go out to the restaurant, do you know what to do? Yes, no? Yes, okay, I see a show of hands. All right. Well, guess what? Would you believe that there are some of us who don't know what to do? While we may think some of these behaviors should have been taught at home, we still have a lot of people who have not been exposed to table manners. All right. And I'm going to touch on table manners as best as I can based on the time frame that I'm working with. But I think we're going relatively fast there because a lot of people are not asking that many questions. All right. So we want to use and exercise good table manners. Can anybody give me at least 3 don'ts? 3. Let's start with the don'ts first. What you should not do at the table.
Okay, we're waiting for. Okay, no elbows on the table.
No elbows on the table.
Do not speak when your mouth is full. No cell phones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, stick a pin there. If you have a cell phone and you don't have a purse or somewhere to place your cell phone, where can you place your cell phone?
In a purse, someone said.
Well, let's just say you don't have anything else but your cell phone on you.
Okay.
Let's say that
face down on the table, someone said next to you.
Face down on the table, yes.
In your lap.
So yes, your lap, but more so on the table. What about the do's? Give me 3 do's that you should do or should pay attention to.
Napkins tucked.
Napkins should
Good
be on
posture.
our lap. What else?
Good posture.
Uh-huh.
You should know which forks you're to utilize.
Yes, and we're gonna look at some diagrams about that as well.
No vulgar language. Well, that's knows.
Okay.
Using the utensils properly.
Right. But first of all, let me start by saying this. When we would have been invited to go out to dinner or whatever for some sort, even if it's dinner at our homes, we want to wash our hands, okay? A lot of people just walk from out of the street to the table and don't wash their hands, don't sanitize, okay? these are COVID times now. So of course we need to pay more attention to keeping sanitized and making sure that when we sit to the table, we're sitting amongst others. And I want to make sure that if I ask you to pass me something at the table, your hands aren't dirty and whatever germs that you have aren't passed on to me. So we want to wash our hands properly, all right? We want to sit upright. We don't want to be slouching. If we're at the table, we want to sit upright. We spoke about elbows not being on the table while we're eating. But of course, you know, before the meal is served, we may be just sitting around waiting for our meal. We may want to rest our arms on the table because, you know, after a while, just sitting up straight could get a bit uncomfortable, right? But while you are eating, I don't suggest you put your elbows on the table. That's a no-no, okay?
Ms. Pinder, there are some more comments with some very, very good suggestions as well. Gabrielle said, excuse yourself if and when talking or if you need to go on the phone.
Yes.
Jayana said, wait for everyone to get their food before eating.
Right.
That's a difficult one, but it's very important.
It is important. And the thing about it is, all of these are good points that I wanted to touch on today. And it seems like a lot of you ACW girls are ready and rocking, ready to go. So let's continue on. When we hold our utensils, we want to hold them properly. Our forks in the left and our knives in the right hand. We mentioned chewing with our mouth closed. What about talking while we're eating? What happens when you talk while you eat? The food splatters all over the place, and before you know it, you're spitting in somebody's face, and they're wiping your face, and you're embarrassed, and you'll be like, oops, sorry. No, we want to eat with our mouths closed, and when we chew, we want to chew our food and not just swallow, all right? How about cutting meat? Some of us like to cut our meat at knowing that if we're eating steak, we need a steak knife. Now, of course, you know, when we're home, we may not be as fancy as we are in the restaurant, because if you order steak at the restaurant or certain types of meat, they would bring you a special knife, right? But when we're home, we may just use a table knife. So we need to keep those things in mind when we're cutting our food. Who cuts corn? Any of you cut corn? That was a trick question. I hope nobody said they do.
Everyone's saying no, no, mom.
What happens when you cut corn?
Goes all over the place.
It goes all over the place. Same thing with olives, okay? So we need to be mindful of the types of food that we are able to cut with our knives and eat with our forks, okay? And the other types of foods that we need to pick up with our hands. We pick up corn with our hands, especially corn on the cob, all right? Now, some may beg to differ when it comes to wings. You know, wings is a popular item on menus now, right? As ACW young women, and I'm not an ACW, an Anglican church woman, right? But I follow them. How do you eat your chicken wings? Let me hear from Kaden. Kaden?
I don't eat meat. But from what I've seen when I go out, I do see individuals use knives to dissect the meat before eating it and using a fork to pick it up instead of using their hands.
Right, okay. And for me personally, what I would prefer to do would be to tear off the meat first of the chicken wing, and depending on the setting that I'm in, will determine whether or not I pick it up with my hand and eat the remaining meat off of the chicken bone. All right.
Ms. Pinder, I think that was a trick question you asked.
Yeah, that was a trick question.
It really depends on the setting as well. It
really depends on the setting. Now, if we're home now, we could do all this kind of stuff. But when we're out and among people, we need to be on our P's and Q's, right? And what about hands in the plate? How many of you have gone out and you've seen your friends have their whole hand in the plate? The whole palm, the two of them? No, hands should not be in your plates. Okay, you use the proper utensils to eat your food because people are watching. People watch everything you do. With the way how social media is now, people taking a picture of you, you don't even know. When you see that picture again, you're in a very uncomfortable position where You may have the chicken bone in your left hand and you may have the corn in your right. So you want to make sure that you govern yourselves when you're sitting at the table, dining out with friends, because you don't know who's watching, okay? And you also want to be eating properly while you're in the presence of others, okay? What about reaching over the table? If you need the salt or the pepper, should you just reach over the table to the person on the right or the left?
Okay, I'm waiting for the comments to come through. Janice says some cultures.
I think Janice says, but also some cultures eat with their hands. Yes, I know Africans eat with their hands. That's different. Okay, and that depends on the culture. All right. Asia Forbes is saying you should ask someone to pass it to you. Correct. You should not be reaching over the other person, but asking them to pass the salt or the pepper. I'll touch on a little bit more on that. Question: if you're at a fine restaurant, would you ask for ketchup or hot sauce? How about Ayana? Would you ask for ketchup or hot sauce if you're at a fine restaurant dining? Francesca is answering, but I'm not sure what she's answering to. Do you know that that's an insult to the chef? Imagine them serving you a rack of lamb, a good piece of lamb or a steak, and you asking for ketchup. That's an insult to the chef, you know, because they would have taken the time to use all their nice herbs and spices to make that that meat nice and seasoned and tastefully done. But by asking them to, you know, pass the ketchup or ask the waiter for ketchup and applying this, that's an insult to the waiter or to the chef. All right. Asking to be excused if you have to leave the table. So if you have to leave the table to go to the bathroom, what do? You get up, you place your napkin on the left side of the place setting, and you ask to be excused. Can you excuse me a moment, please? I have to go to the restroom. Or just excuse me a moment, I'll be right back. The same thing applies if your phone rings. Should we be talking to people on the phone while in the presence of others? Aria, I'm coming back to you. Of course not, it's bad manners. And worse if you on speakerphone, all right? Don't you dare answer that phone. I would hope that you would have put it on vibrate or turned it off if you're gonna sit to the table and have your phone at the table. I think Aria mentioned mint jelly on lamb. Yes, those type of additional condiments are expected, of course. But I'm talking about adding like ketchup to steak or ketchup to what should I say? Give me a food that you wouldn't normally add ketchup to if the chef has prepared some type of fine meal. Lobster, all right? Most of the things people use on lobster, like lemon butter or something along those lines. But mint jelly on lamb is delicious, yes. Stone crabs, what do you call it? The melted butter, garlic butter, yes, all right? Next thing, when we eat at the table and we're using cloth napkins or even paper napkins, while we're eating, we're resting them on our laps. What are our napkins really used for? Two things. How about wiping our fingertips and cleaning our mouth? How many of you, since you cover our thighs, protection for the food dropping on your clothes? Yes, that's one thing. But most importantly, for wiping your mouth and wiping your fingertips. How many of you have seen people wiping the whole face? Some people use that napkin, that cloth napkin, if they feel a little hot, to just wipe their whole face.
No.
That's a no, okay? You're going to wipe your fingertips, okay? And that is the purpose, along with your mouth. When your napkin is not in use, you're going to rest the soiled napkin on the left side of the place setting. But when it's in use, you're going to have it spread across your lap, all right? And by doing that, that is for the protection of any food that may drop down on your clothing, all right? When you've been served your meal, should everybody eat at the same time, or should you just go and start eating right away?
Aria said same time.
Same time. So you're going to wait until the wait staff serve everybody first, and then you should eat. Now, it's up to the other persons who have not been served. Let's just say it's a table of 10, and 6 people have been served and 4 people are still waiting. Now, if those 4 people would say to the other 6, okay, go ahead and start eating, we're okay with that. That's fine. But under normal circumstances, everybody should wait until everybody has been served their meal, and then they should begin. Okay? That's clear? Everybody clear on that? How about the no picking of teeth or slurping at the table? You know, like how when you eat ribs, some meat get in your teeth? Should you ask for a toothpick? Should you be pulling out your, what do you call it, plackers to pick your teeth or floss at the table? Very rude, very disrespectful for the others at the table. We don't want to be slurping our drinks, and we don't want to chew food and then spit it out and place it on the side of the plate. I know older people would do that sometimes when it's difficult for them to chew stuff like beef or maybe ribs or just hard food in particular, but that's no-no. That's a no-no, okay? Engaging in conversation on the phone, we talked about that. We want to wait until the food is served, napkins when we're about to eat, and make sure that everything is in order. Let me make sure that I covered everything with table settings. Did I miss anything? Anything I missed?
Pat Major is saying that they've seen the napkins tucked in the shirt neck. So
no.
Okay? That's not okay.
That's not appropriate. You mean like using it as a bib?
I believe so.
Using it as a bib, yes. That is a no-no. And as Anglican church women, we don't want to be in settings of that nature where we would be doing these kind of things. I don't even do that at home. Do y'all use a napkin as a bib? We use bibs on babies, right? Only kids. And if something is in your teeth, yes, Emery Ann, I would prefer to be excused as opposed to you sitting down and picking your teeth. How about that? All right. Any other do's and don'ts with table manners?
Does placing your fork, your utensils in general in a certain way indicate certain things to the waiter?
Yes, I'm going to show that. We're going to move that. I'm going to move to table place settings in about 2 minutes. I just want to make sure that we would have covered everything with table manners. And when we are done with the table, when we're finished eating and we want to leave the table, again, we're going to ask to be excused, okay? And earlier I had said, the first thing you do when you go to sit down is you're going to wash your hands. And perhaps when you leave the table, you want to go and wash your hands again, just to make sure that you stay sanitized, all right? Same with purses. Purses on the table, large purses. I don't encourage women to carry large purses out when they're dining out in any event. Mm-hmm. But if you have a little small purse, sometimes you're able to hang it on the back of a chair or perhaps rest it in the front of you. I'm assuming, let's just say a centerpiece is in the middle of the table. You're going to rest your purse in the front of you, that in a way that it doesn't obstruct your utensils. All right. Any other questions?
I think you mentioned it before, loud talking as well.
Very loud talking. Loud talking. You want to keep your voice at an even tone so that it doesn't disrupt the others in the room. okay? Because some restaurants are kind of tight and you don't want to be talking too loud where they can hear what's going on at your table. Coughing and sneezing as well at the table. Maybe you need to leave the table, ask to be excused if you think you're going to have a cough attack, okay? Sometimes people could just swallow the wrong way and may need to just have a moment, especially now, because every time you cough or sneeze now, people think you got COVID, all right? So maybe you'd want to excuse yourself, put back on your mask, and that's another thing. When you're dining out or you're going anywhere, you have to wear your mask, and then once you get to the table, you can remove your mask. But once you remove your mask, fold it inwards so that the part that goes in your mouth or makes contact with your mouth isn't exposed. You just fold it down and just rest it to the side, because there may be a time when you may have to get up quickly and you may need to use your mask in order to leave the table. Okay, question, Shivanya?
I just want to add to that because I've been to dinner a few times and I've seen persons, they just yuck up the mask and they just rest on the table, like they're not cautious or conscious of where they place the mask.
Yes,
yeah, so
placing the tables.
You have to be very, very careful with that as well.
Okay, yes. All right. And when we're sitting at the table, we have to act as if, we're dining with kings and queens. I can only, admonish you to be on your best behavior at all times. Okay, because like I said, people are watching and everything is visual. And like Mrs. Ingram said, just how these universities and these employers look at your Facebook pages and Instagram pages. Sometimes they invite you out on interviews, to lunch. They can invite you to a food interview where they're watching to see how you conduct yourself at the table, because you may be called upon to represent the company or the school, whatever, at a business lunch, okay? And they don't want to send anybody out there to represent them who can't eat with a knife and fork. Another no-no is licking of the knife. What can happen when you lick the knife? You could cut your tongue. So you don't want to lick the knife, all right? You want to use your utensils properly, and you want to make sure that when you secure your food with the utensils to cut your meat, like we said earlier, it doesn't go all over the place. It doesn't fly all over the place, all right? Any questions before we move on to table settings?
Any other questions, ladies? I see Aurora Sherman has her hands up. I'm not exactly sure.
Aurora, how can I help Aurora? What's your question?
Good day. I see a lot that people, when they leave their chair, they place the napkin in the chair. Is that correct?
That is a no-no. You place your napkin on the left side of your plate, okay? If you could you imagine how many other butts were sitting in that chair before you? All right? So placing the napkin in the chairs is definitely a no-no, all right? So place it on the left side of your place setting, all right? And even when you're finished eating, your napkin, your soiled napkin should not be placed in the middle of your plate either. Your napkin should be placed on the left side of the place setting, all right? So we're gonna go into place settings now. If we don't have any more questions with table manners.
Ms. Pinder, I have a question. Is the significance of placing the napkin on the left, is that where the waitress would come to receive used utensils, or what is the significance of placing the items on the left?
No, you're placing the napkin on the left.
Napkin. What is the significance of the napkin?
We're getting into where your utensils should be, which will indicate that you have completed your meal right now, if that's what you mean. There's a way, we're getting to that. So let's go to formal.
I have a question.
Aria Brown has a question.
Since COVID and people come back to restaurants, is it rude to bring your own utensils to a restaurant now?
People do that, and that's their personal choice. I personally don't. we do assume that when we go to a restaurant that everything is clean. Now, you know, sometimes we will sit at a place setting and we may notice a little something, a little spot on a utensil. And of course, you know, we'll ask them to replace it. I've also seen where people have actually used their water glass to basically pop their fork in or knife in and just to wipe it off again. That's a personal choice, but that's not something I would suggest. Okay? It's not, it doesn't have a good look. I would prefer to ask for a new set of cutlery as opposed to doing that openly like that.
And one more question. What about plastic utensil? Asking for a plastic utensil, is that rude as well?
I think that's rude. Why would you want to use plastic? Because of COVID?
I have braces in the metal. But shock me if it come in contact with my braces.
Well, I mean, well, that's different. That's an isolated situation. But you have some people who are kind of like, I don't want to go as far. I mean, just to get the point across, you know, like some people are just anal. They just being overly
or extra
excited or extra about everything. But your situation would be an isolated situation because of the fact that with the metal touching your braces, you could get shocked, right? Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so that would be an isolated situation. So I would, you know, that's understandable. Anybody else? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay, let's go to informal place settings. Okay, so this is basically, this isn't basic, but this is an informal place setting. Before I get into this, let me ask you, when you're at home with your families, do you sit down to a table set meal? Do you ever sit down? Do you ever set the table for you to sit down as a family for dinner? No? Deal and Eke? No?
A few persons saying no.
Does anybody, can I see a show of hands of anybody who may sit down as a family on a Sunday and they would set the table? No? Gabrielle said yes. Gabrielle, is that for family Sunday dinner or just everyday dinner? Okay, Sierra says only on Sundays. My family sets it only on Sundays. Right. There are quite a number of family members who traditionally set the table and sit down as a family for a meal on a Sunday. All right. And while this image here is not basic, it's still an informal setting. And in most cases, you would set the table with your dinner fork, your dinner knife, and possibly a glass, along with your napkin and your dinner plate. Okay, or more so not even the plate, because some people would keep the plate in the kitchen, and as the food is taken up, then they will place it at the place setting. All right, but this is an informal diagram, and I want you all to pay close attention to what I'm going to say. I need you to remember, when you're out dining and you see a place setting such as this, you have the salad fork, the dinner knife, the teaspoon maybe, and the soup spoon. We eat from without in. Now, I am sure some of you are aware that there are 1-course meals, 2-course meals, 3-course meals. Can any one of you tell me what this informal setup, what type of meal is the setup for? Two-course? No. Appetizer? No. In most instances, Ayana, appetizers are served prior to you sitting here at the dinner table. And if you are at the dinner table, sometimes they're on a platter, family style, that you can pass around. But this is set up for a 4-course meal. Can anybody tell me why this is a 4-course meal? Or which indicates this is a 4-course meal? Actually, there's one, actually it is 3 course because there's one course that's not included in, that's dessert. But you have the salad fork, you have the soup spoon, and you have the dinner fork and knife. So looking at this diagram, it is 3 course, but let's just assume that dessert is being served afterwards. So this would be a 4-course meal if you saw the cutlery up above the plate, the dessert fork and spoon above the plate. It would definitely be a 4-course meal. But for right now, as it is set up, it's a 3-course meal. We eat from outward inward. So we're going to start with our soup, which is to the right, the outer right. When we're done with the soup, it'll be cleared. We start with our salad. When we're done with the salad, that will be cleared. And then we have our entree, which is our main meal. All right. This napkin is plated, is positioned here at the time of place setting. But once we begin to eat, once the food service begins, we're going to place the napkin in our laps. All right. So like Shavanya said, is soup, salad, entree. That is how the utensils are positioned. That teaspoon is there in the event that maybe there's tea or coffee afterwards or what have you, or at some point, or you may have a sorbet. That's another course too. All right. Do you know what a sorbet is? Anybody familiar with TCBY? Just to give you an idea of the texture, a sorbet cleanses the palate.
Yes.
All right. And that is served between meals before you got your entree.
It's Italian, I believe. Italian.
Yeah, to cleanse your palate. You have the wine glass. Now, in this diagram, that wine glass is basically a multi-purpose wine glass for either white wine or red wine. And then you have the water glass or the water goblet. In place of the water goblet too, you may have a tumbler or what should I say, a rock glass that may have a soft drink, all right? So this is what you would call an informal place setting, all right? Any questions before we move on? Yes, no? Okay, let's go to the next slide with the...
We have one hand raised, Natalia Edgecombe.
Natalia. Question?
I see some people, when they finish eating at a restaurant, they cross the knife and fork. Is that okay to do?
Okay, we're getting to that. We're getting to that. That would be some of the screens that are coming up next. Okay, so let's deal with formal place setting. So if we've been invited to a formal gala event, let's just say, you know, the red ribbon ball or the hard ball or those type formal events, you would have this type of place setting, okay? Now, the napkin is placed here on the left side, but in a lot of cases, the napkin is also folded, can be folded in a decorative fashion, sitting on the plate, all right? Now, the difference between this place setting and the informal one is that you see a place card here. You see the setup for the dessert spoon or the dessert fork, okay? You have the bread and butter plate and the bread knife, all right? You have the napkin to the left and you see a service plate. Can anybody tell me what the other name is or another name for service plate is? The service plate is just a decorative plate. It's not used for food. It's a decorative plate, and it's basically to capture any little crumbs or any little fallings off of whatever's on your dinner plate. But it's called a service plate or another name. Can anybody tell me what that name is?
It's in the chat.
A charger plate, okay? And these charger plates are often decorative, gold, silver, bronze, gold, whatever you color, whatever you name it, whatever color there is, these plates are decorative plates. And the other name for it is a service plate or also referred to as a charger plate, all right? Now, bread and butter plate. How many of you go out and get mixed up and the other person on the side of you is using your bread and butter plate? Your bread and butter plate is placed at the left-hand side. top upper left-hand side. Okay, right? Should you cut bread roll or should you tear it? Remember now the bread knife, if you think back to an occasion when you would have gone out and had a bread and butter plate at your place setting, does that knife have a blade? Have a sharp edge? No. You tear rolls open. You don't cut bread. You tear it open and then you spread your butter on the bread or whatever dressing or whatever relish you're using on your bread. You tear bread apart and not cut bread. That place card there will have your name on it, okay? And that is to indicate that that is your place setting, your seating for your meal. The salad fork and the soup spoon, like we shared earlier, we eat from out within, and that is all based on the amount of courses that we're having. You see the salad plate there? Once your salad is served, okay, that plate, and you finish, you eat your salad, the wait staff will come and move your salad plate along with your salad fork. The same thing applies with your soup spoon and soup bowl. The soup bowl can be like in a rimmed bowl or a bouillon cup. You know what a bouillon cup is? A small bowl, normally you would serve like conch chowder, but like a rim plate would probably have something a little heavier. Like if you wanted to serve like chicken sauce or maybe pea soup, you know, something with I should say heavier, more texture, heavier meat. All right, but bouillon cups are what they use for light soups, bisques, and chowders and stuff like that. Okay, your dessert spoon and fork is at the top. Now, why would we need both? What dessert would we possibly be eating that would require both?
Cake.
Cake and
Ice cream.
Ice cream, okay, or mousse or pie, okay? So it depends on what you want to use to eat your dessert, all right? Some places, if it's just cake, they may just add just a fork. And when you set up your table home, you can just add the fork, or you can just add the spoon, you don't have to add anything at all if you're not gonna have dessert, all right? Everybody clear on this? And after each course, the wait staff will remove the plate. When everything is all said and done, we're going to go to the screen for that will indicate how your utensils should appear on your plate based on what's going on at the time. When I say what's going on, if you're finished, if you're taking a break, if you want more food, okay, all of this will show up in our next diagram. But ACW women, you know that our churches like to have tea parties. There's no, hold on, let me see here. My screen doesn't allow me to see, hold on. Yeah, do you see a, what you call it, a cup and saucer there? On the right side?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you were doing a tea party, all of this stuff would not be on the table. The only thing will be on the table will be a plate in the middle, and normally between, if it's high tea or low tea, you may have like a smaller plate, a 7-inch plate or a 6-inch plate, just to keep your little fruits or vegetables or finger sandwiches or deviled eggs. You're gonna have a smaller plate. The 7-inch plate is normally about the size of the salad plate or a little bigger. You see that in the middle there? And then you'll have the spoon and you'll have a fork, all right? The fork will be on the left and the spoon will be on the right, all right? And your teacup and saucer will be placed to the very right of the place setting, and the handle of the teacup would be at 5 o'clock. Is everybody clear and understand what I mean when I say 5 o'clock? Think of a clock. Think of where the position 5 is, and that's where your handle should be to pick up your teacup. Can you envision that? Questions? Your dessert fork and spoon can also be placed at the top. All right? Questions? You said, excuse me one moment, please. You have a question? Shivanya? Oh, Shivanya left. Okay. All right. All right. So are there any questions about our place settings? When we're done, we're going to remove our napkin from our laps. We're going to wipe our fingertips and we're going to wipe our mouths. Okay. We're going to place our soiled napkin on the left side of the plate. When the waiter clears the table, they will remove everything, the charger plate, everything. And then it'll just be a conversation. Any questions? Janet, you're saying it makes perfect sense. So let's go on to the next slide. All right. These are the different positions in which we should place our cutlery that will indicate to the wait staff what our present position is at the table. All right. Now, the one to the bottom, I didn't like it. I don't think we've kind of used that here much. Some people may not know what it means, but it may not be necessary to just position our utensils like that, but it's just for sharing purposes. Expecting another course. Yes, no, but yeah, possibility. Still eating. I finished. Placing the cutlery together, indicating that you're finished, whether you cross it or you line it up straight base. My next slide will show you how your cutlery should be positioned on your plate. Like I said, either straight up or slanted as such in the image. And that is a clear indication that you're done with your meal. Now, I've shared these place setting images for you so that whether you are at home, whether you're at a family member's house, or wherever, you want to be able to, show people that you have good table manners. You know how to conduct yourself when you're seated at the table, when you're having a meal, right? You don't want to seem as if you don't know. And like I would share to anybody, the Google is there. If you're not sure of something, Google it. Sometimes you could be invited to certain places. You don't know what the appropriate style of dress is, but Google it. When you're unsure, Google it. These place settings are important for when you go out. You don't want to embarrass yourselves. You want to be respected. You want people to know that you know how to eat properly with utensils. You know how to govern yourselves when you're at the table. We spoke about the no elbows on the table. We spoke about the chewing. We spoke about spitting. We spoke about mobile devices at the table. We also spoke about reaching over. We want to wash our hands, hold our utensils. We don't want to be talking with our utensils. You know how some people like to hold up their knife and say, you hear this or what is this? You don't want to be talking to anybody or putting any utensils in anybody's face while at the dinner table, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. We want to be mindful of the choices that we make when we go out, when we're selecting things off the menu. All right. If it's something that you have not tried before, and it may be a little bit, what should I say, outrageous, like octopus and alligator or rattlesnake, try not to order things that you're not familiar with. Stick with what you know, because you could embarrass yourselves. All right. Any questions?
I see no questions in the chat. Oh, okay,
Aria?
Aria. She has her hand up.
I don't want to sound rude, but okay. You see how you say try new things, but then don't try nothing new. You just say stick to what you know. I know some people just order chicken and fries. Every
Yeah,
single
okay.
place
No,
they
no,
go.
no. Aria, I meant like if you see alligator on the menu, that is an acquired taste for some. And
I would
sometimes
try
when
it.
you try it?
Yes, ma'am. I try.
Okay, well,
I
I mean, I guess that's a personal choice. But some people, when they're invited out, and you know, when you're trying to show off and you just want to order everything you see, just for seeing sake or just for ordering sake because you're not paying the bill, right? That is what I'm talking about. Like I'm a foodie, so maybe I may try. Like, I think when there was a time when calamari was not something on the menus back then or a couple of years ago, like how it is now. Everybody knows what calamari is. That's an acquired taste for some, right? The same thing like what should I say? Alligator. I think I was told that the meat is tough.
Or caviar.
Or caviar. Name another food that could be considered outrageous. I'm trying to escargot. If you don't want those slippery things down your throat, don't try to order them. Because you only get embarrassed yourself. You know what I mean? And guess what? Let's touch on escargot because escargot has a different size fork. A very little small fork that you would eat escargot with. Okay? So when we talk about food and different cultures, because I think somebody brought up the point about some cultures we eat with our hands. Like I know Africans make this dish called fufu. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but fufu is like a grits type dish. And of course, you need to make sure that everybody washes their hands. Everybody sits around the table. The fufu, which is a grits, and this meat that looks like, I mean, I stand to be corrected, mind you, but the meat looks like a stewed beef. I don't know if you're familiar with stewed beef or like steamed meat. And what they do is they dip their hands in the grits, grab a little bit of grits in their hands, pick it up, dip it in the meat, and then eat it. You know, that's a different culture. Okay, so Aria, go ahead with your alligator. Go and try it. And I hope you don't have to spit it out the table because that again is rude too. You may have to just excuse yourself and go in the restroom and try to discard that instead of spitting it on the plate. All right. Any questions? Any other questions? Yes, no? Roseanne said she likes, Ms. Johnson said she likes trying new things. I do too.
And you have some nice congratulations and compliments in the chat as well. Okay,
thank you. What I wanted to say, yesterday I went to I had to do a site visit at a restaurant out west, and I saw some things on the menu that they indicated like there was, vegan choices, vegetarian or vegan choices. Another thing we have to pay attention to is when we're dining out with friends, if they have special food allergies, they need to let you know. Because believe it or not, you could go somewhere with somebody, you have no idea that they may be allergic to nuts. And guess what? They can have a reaction right there in your presence, and you wouldn't have any idea as to what to do. So that's important. The napkin, secretly put in the napkin. Yes, I know, but what are you going to use how are you going to wipe your mouth with your napkin after the fact? Or you can put in your napkin and then ask the waiter for another one. That makes sense, yes. But it looks very unsightly to see a piece of chewed up meat that you can't swallow placed on the side of your plate. And I'm just saying this, I remember my grandmother used to do it, but she was home in our house. So I can't excuse that. But I mean, imagine if you're going out and these things are happening right next to you, right in the next place, place next to you. All right. The antics, I like trying new things, but escargot won't be one of them. Yeah, I agree. I'm not a fan of that either. And a lot of people have issues with okra. You know, like when you order okra soup, some people don't cook the okra down properly, and then the soup looks slimy, and then you be like, oh, I don't want this. Keep your comments to yourself. If you don't have anything positive to say, don't say it. Okay? And if it's something you have a problem with the food that's being presented to you, ask them to see the chef, or just, you know, just softly say to the waiter, this is not what I expected. Can I order another meal or something? You want to do things with diplomacy, be discreet, you know, and be kind. Don't do what you don't want no one to do to you. So don't call out the restaurant and bad mouth them and bash them, because sometimes it can be easily corrected without creating a whole movie or causing too much drama. Okay? So I'm going to close with this in terms of my last quote for today, since there are no more questions. Yes, Siobhan, you're going to be polite and everything, but as ladies, we want to respect ourselves. If you don't, others won't either. Remember, the world sees what you put out there. So hold yourself to a high standard of grace and elegance. When you step out of your homes, the world is watching. You may think you're the only one walking through the corner, but there's somebody out there watching you. All right? There's somebody out there watching how you walk, who's listening when you speak. That's why we spoke about earlier, speaking clearly, speaking standard English. Use your broken English or your dialect in your private settings or in your inner circles, all right? Having good table manners. Social graces, please and thank you. Nobody wants to be associated with a rude person. Oh, she doesn't speak, she's stuck up. I don't want to be around her. You don't want to be in the company of people who will embarrass you, okay? Be in the company of people who will empower and who will make you, or should I say, encourage you to have confidence in yourself. The conversation is different. You know the haters around, and always ask God for the spirit of discernment. And so that is what I will leave with you today, young ladies, to just hold your head high, walk gracefully, strut your stuff. But when your foot hits the ground, just let it run or walk. But do what you must and remain respectful. All right? Thank you for allowing me to share today. But I hope I didn't go over time. Lord, I did almost go over time.
It was lovely. It was lovely. All the information.
I was trying to make it a little, you know, relaxed, interactive, down to earth. I hope you learned some things, and some things we let's just say we were reminded about. And you know, etiquette is everyday life.
That's right.
Everyday life. It's a code or conduct of your behavior, and it will carry you through life. All right. So today is Saturday is still young, and so I'm going to leave you ladies. And thank you so much again. It was my pleasure. And I want to share that my social media platforms are Lesley Pinder Wedding and Events. And as the beautiful lady that introduced me today,
Kaden Smith.
Kaden Smith, thank you so much for that introductory. And be sure to reach out to me if you need to. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram. Mrs. Johnson has my contact if you want to reach out. I also forgot to mention that when I was a part of the People to People program, I've retired now from that. With me training new ambassadors, I created a brochure for entertaining, and it also has the images for informal and formal place settings. But it's a brochure that I created for easy entertaining. So if you're interested in a copy, be sure to reach out, let Ms. Johnson know, and I will get one to you. It just has tips. It gave tips and suggestions for easy entertaining if you wanted to entertain yourselves, or for yourselves at home, or for when you go out for fine dining. All right, it's just a brochure that I created for the People to People program for the new ambassadors, because I don't know, for some of you who may know about the program, it's still in existence now, but what it was designed by Sir Clementine Maynard back in his tenure as Ministry of Tourism some time ago. And it was designed for people, actually for tourists coming to our country who wanted to see exactly and experience what went on behind the resort life, what we did over the hill in our environment, at church, at homes, interacting with our